Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Again, I hope you had a nice little break there. Again, I'm Jeremy Kahn, the AI editor at Fortune. And now we're going to move on to the how, a little bit more on the nitty-gritty of execution and scaling. And we're going to talk a lot about how you sort of bring your workforce along into this new AI, agentic AI world. But first, again, I'm going to preview this with a little overview of some stuff from outside necessarily the engineering and architectural industries. How do you sort of measure and scale AI agents? I want to point out a couple things you might want to look at. Again, the paper here on my right is Measuring AI Agent Autonomy in Practice, which is a blog post that Anthropic put out a couple weeks ago. You might want to look at. They looked at sort of the power users of their agentic products, which are Claude Code and Claude Cowork, and they wanted to look at like how do those users use these products effectively versus more novice users. And it turned out that the power users of these products and the people who seem to be using these more effectively would actually allow the agents quite a lot more autonomy in how they would complete tasks, would allow them to run for longer, but would interrupt them more. So they were more likely to kind of jump in, break up the workflow of the agent, say, hey, you're not doing this right, and redirect the agent, whereas the more novice users would tend to direct the agent at very short-term tasks and then use a series of short-term tasks. So they'd say, go do step A, okay, you've done step A, now let's do step B, now do step C. They said the power users would usually say, okay, I just want this thing done, A to Z, let the thing start to run, but then maybe 4 hours later, go check on it. And if it had gone sort of in the wrong direction, they'd interrupt it and redirect it. So that was kind of an interesting study they had done on the difference between sort of power users of AI agents and more novice users of AI agents. The paper on the left was put out by Google DeepMind, and it's very much worth looking at as you think about deploying agents within a large enterprise. They actually tried to study like when should you use a single agent to do something, and when should you use many sub-agents, perhaps supervised by an agent. And they tried to come up with a science for when you should do one of these two things. The paper is very much worth looking at. And now here's a bit of the talk where I'm going to add a little bit of caution to how you think about using AI. This is a little bit of the risk-based side of the talk. If you look at some benchmarks, and this is a common visual reasoning benchmark, it often looks like these frontier models are excellent at visual reasoning based on the benchmark data. And here in this, actually, it was Google's Gemini Flash that you see on this visual reasoning benchmark is 78% accurate. But I want to challenge that a little bit, and I think those who've tried to use these in real-world settings have often found they are sometimes don't seem to live up to the benchmark stats in terms of how they're doing. And this was a recent study that had come out, I think, from Stanford and also UC Santa Cruz that had looked at medical imaging analysis using the frontier models. And it turned out that they wanted to see, like, what happened if we told the model that there was an image there for it to analyze, but didn't actually provide the image. Well, it turned out that the AI model went ahead and made up a whole bunch of analysis of the image that wasn't there. And rather remarkably, was still able to achieve pretty well on a lot of medical benchmarks, which questions like how good the benchmark is, what is the agent actually doing. One of the theories here is that these frontier models that are trained in a multimodal way, so they take in both visual inputs and a lot of text, are so good at finding statistical patterns in the text that they essentially kind of cheat their way through the visual reasoning. They often pick up clues based on the question they're being asked or on the text that surrounds an image in X-rays and other medical imagery, and they're able to kind of intuit from the text what is its thing, what should the analysis be, even though they don't actually have access to the image. And that, of course, is problematic, though, if when you're trying to get to something that's the ground truth and in high impact domains, whether that's medicine or engineering potentially, it's not what you want. And I think it's a reason why there's still work to be done in creating models, visual reasoning models that are really grounded in physics, grounded in truth. A couple other things, of course, we're seeing with agents, agentic AI in the coding space just in the last few weeks is how good these models are getting at essentially finding bugs, and which is potentially a good thing, but also potentially a bad thing. Here, they're very good at finding zero-day exploits. And so Anthropic has this model, Mythos, that they say has been able to find all these high-risk vulnerabilities in code. And then they've given this through something called Project Glasswing to a bunch of companies to try to secure their code bases, particularly on operating systems and Linux and other things that really underpin a lot of other software around the world, and in the hope that we can kind of defend ourselves before attackers have access to the same technology, because the idea is that once you have attackers that have this, they're going to be able to find all of these loopholes, and we're going to be in a quite scary world. And so that's all sort of coming in the future, and it's a reason I think we need to be a little cautious about how we deploy these systems and where we use them. But to get into actually what it takes to operate AI in the enterprise and how you bring your workforce along, I'd like to introduce my next set of panelists. We have Yanisa, who's the head of digital and data at Lantis, Ali, who is the global technology officer at Arcadis, and Ritesh, who is from the VP of Data Platform at Autodesk. Welcome to the stage, everybody. Great. Why don't we start with you, Yanisa? Talk a little bit about what Lantis does for those who are not familiar, and then a little bit about how you're using AI right now in your process.
Yes. So Lantis is a government company in Belgium. We are created for all the complex mobility issues or possible solutions in Antwerp, the bigger Antwerp region. We are mostly known for the Oosterwee link. It's a 10 billion euro project to make the ring of Antwerp round because it's not ring-shaped right now. And it's in a very dense area. So we are working with 5 different joint ventures to create this. But actually, we have the infrastructure, of course, but next to that, we actually want to go for the user experience afterwards, that everybody is happy with driving through the tunnels, that the uptime is at its maximum. We are already thinking about that right now. And in the whole process, there's a lot of data that is created, and it needs to be crunched and managed, because having the data as such, it's not a goal, and you need to make use of it. And that's where, right now, AI is used most of the time. The most proof of concepts at our company is in that subject.
Great. All right, we're going to get into some of those specifics in a minute. Ali, Arcadis, what do you guys do, and where are you using AI at the moment?
Good question. Company was founded on 1888 to claim land or reclaim land here in Netherlands. So maybe we are actually currently on the spot that was reclaimed at that time. Nowadays, 34,000 people across the globe, AAC, so architectural engineering, consulting. If you need a tunnel, if you need the bridge, if you need, let's say, a new shopping center with all the traffic flows simulated, we can do that for you. So really operations globally. And I think if I would say, we use AI in multiple areas. So we have started, of course, to work with our Autodesk colleagues on the design phase. I think we have a demo here where we are actually showing how we are combining the Autodesk technology with the knowledge what we have, so that we can actually verify the design what has been created against our standards. That is this actually design what has been done? Is this meeting our standard? Or actually, if there are mismatches, then you can actually start acting on those. Then, of course, traditional personal productivity things, like we have our own company, Arcadis GPT, already for multiple years. We use also Microsoft Agentic AI technology. So all kind of things in place, but not yet the silver bullet how to change the business model.
Right. Well, maybe that's coming. Ritesh, why don't you talk a little bit? People know Autodesk, obviously. We're here, and we heard from Ben earlier, and we heard from Nevin earlier. But your role as VP of Data Platform, talk a little about what that does and where you're using AI specifically within your function.
So Autodesk uses, as every company now, AI in pretty much every aspect, from back-end office systems, improving the productivity over there, to developer productivity, and then also with Assistant, we are bringing that same AI capabilities in all of our products. So our goal is improvement across the spectrum for all of the activities that we are involved in.
Got it. Got it. Yanisa, one of the things we were talking about just off stage, that you're starting to use AI for at Lantis is reviewing some of the invoices that come in from your contractors. Talk a little about that use case and how that's going.
So we are trying to set up a system using AI for what's called cost assurance, all the invoices that are getting from the contractor in an NEC4 contract, to review them and to get possible red flags, or hopefully no red flags, of course, on the invoices. And I think in this process, it's quite clear to me that the technology is there. It's going very, very fast. It's difficult to keep up, but that's not the most difficult part of it. It's the human factor. If you tell to a contractor that we are looking into using AI to have a look at the invoices, everybody gets quite nervous. And I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're nervous. It's gonna highlight lots of problems that they're gonna have to go back and fix. It's gonna create more work for them potentially. We were joking off stage. They're then gonna have to use AI to answer those queries. So you could
AI talking to AI.
AI talking to AI. Yeah. That's probably not too far off.
I hope they are not start agreeing about new prices. That would be a challenge for you.
Absolutely. Are you seeing those sorts of functions at Arcadis as well in terms of invoicing, reviewing contracts, this sort of thing?
So as I mentioned, we are mostly looking for areas where we can let's say replace manual work, get rid of some repetitive tasks there. So clearly we have created some finance agents or let's say chat tools that can be used to check the invoices, helping with some accounting stuff. I have to say this industry is a little bit traditional, so I think we need to start also looking as an ecosystem how we start developing so that we can start using the AI agents between the companies, because exactly as you mentioned, if we make a big move there, then actually it moves the ball on the opposite side, so to our partners. And if you don't do it together, it creates this kind of AI ping pong. I think it doesn't provide really value. It might solve my problem, but it's not going to be solving the overall industry right. Challenge.
Yeah, avoiding AI ping pong. Yeah, that's a good phrase. I want to talk a little bit about people also, how you bring your workforce along. Maybe we can talk actually at Autodesk first. What are you doing internally to make sure people are actually using AI tools, developing, understand how to use them? What does that look like?
So, there are a lot of programs we have started with, like, how do you create AI native users, correct? You don't want to be having old workflows and try to fit AI into that, because that doesn't scale. So what we are doing is we have teams now which are purely going and redefining workflows and trying to think through how the new development process, for example, looks like. How do you actually not repeat the same mistakes? So a lot of that is happening, and we encourage these kind of experimentation so that you actually can figure out what works, because there is no manual, as we say about this. There is nothing that tells us this is how you're supposed to do this, or this is what you're gonna do now. So this is what we are doing, and we are making it available, all the tools which are there, we are making them available at scale. Let them try it out and see what comes out, creating these forums where people are sharing best practices and see how it evolves. And then take them and actually formalize them into more workable practices.
Right. Are you mandating that everyone use AI within the company?
I mean,
know
it's
some
not
software firms are.
mandated, but it almost is kind of, because if you don't, you're not going to get the productivity which you're beginning to see from everyone else. So it's almost like a FOMO kind of a scenario now. If you don't use it, you will be left behind, so everybody lands up using it. So not a mandate, but it's become a mandate on its own.
Right. Yeah, Ali, I know we were talking again earlier, and you said these are some of the issues you're facing. Is how do you incentivize people to really use the tools, make sure everyone comes on board? And you said sometimes people are a bit resistant resistant, but they're trying to overcome that.
Yeah, I mean, we started actually upscaling the digital skill of Arcadians already years ago with this kind of citizen development idea. So you provide no-code, low-code capabilities there. I have my team members here who were developing and providing this kind of tooling with the idea that because we are an engineering company, we have a lot of engineers, and engineers, as you might know, they love tools. So that we can help them to develop this kind of small applications, but also actually improve the digital skills. And now we are trying to use the same kind of idea also with the AI. But yes, we have also found out interesting situation that there are some individuals who are actually highlighting economical or social or environmental impacts by AI. And in some cases even saying actually, would there possibility for me to exclude or not to use the AI? It's just individuals, but I think it's also really triggered by the potential impact of the AI, and people don't fully understand, okay, what would be the good end result?
Right, and so do you try to educate them then on like what's the, no, look, there's going to be some big savings in energy and some social good of the thing we're building, and like this will compensate for maybe.
Yeah. And I think it's with all the, let's say, the latest technologies what has arrived. Yes, they have a major positive improvements. I mean, you can be used that for good. But yep, they have also some side impacts. We, for example, we are heavy use of Microsoft technologies, or our AI setup runs on the Microsoft platform. And we also openly communicated that today, for example, our overall CO2 impact of using the whole Microsoft landscape is actually 7 flights from Amsterdam to New York per month. And I think we are traveling a little bit more as a company. So I don't say that we should ignore that impact, but just put it on the perspective that I think the environment impact, yes, it's there, but it's probably not our biggest problem.
Yeah. Yanisa, at Lantis, how have you tried to get employees trained up to start using AI? I think you were saying that a lot of people will use it at home, but they're a little reluctant to use it at work. How have you tried to train a kind of cadre to spread the message about AI?
We do actually two things in general. First of all, we also have the same idea of the citizen development with a training and some kind of copilot cafes, for example, where we come together and exchange experiences. And there are different levels where people can graduate to another level. The first level is just like learn how to prompt, how to get the right results, because that's also just a very fundamental thing. Next to that, you need to do such things for the EU AI Act. And on the other hand, we are leveling up every time to create, for example, own copilot agents. And depending on which level you are at the moment of your training, you don't need to get on the top level, by the way, in our ID. If maybe 20% of our organization is a real ambassador of AI, we'd be very happy. And then they can create agents, and depending on which level, they can share it to other colleagues. And we're just trying to support it from the digital and data team with sustainable data availability, that they are not creating stuff with Excels that need to be updated every month. And if someone is away on a holiday, it's not working anymore or whatever, to just support them to get some kind of confidence in the systems.
Right.
Same kind of ideas I can quickly comment on our side. Exactly. Try to create this kind of, let's call it champion network, and different level of badges, getting the silver or bronze or gold badge depending on your capabilities.
Yeah. So having some internal advocates for the technology makes a big difference.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Yanisa, I know that one of the things you're trying to do at Lantis is not just to sort of move your existing processes a little bit faster, but to actually start capturing data throughout the entire project that you hope sort of in the future, if you apply AI to, will help have a road network that lasts longer, is easier to maintain. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what the kind of broader vision is for using AI potentially to help advance the kind of goals of the company in terms of the actual building projects.
Yeah, I think it all starts with having the data in a data-driven way, to have our contractors, our ecosystem where we are building, well, mostly Austria link at this moment, that we all have the same mindset to create the data, because that's a big lessons learned from me personally. If you don't have the data in a structured way, if it's not in some kind of an enterprise data model, if you don't maintain it in the right way, there is not very much use of AI because it can do a lot of things, but if you have your data structured and in a good way, it helps a lot to get better functions or better capabilities.
Ritesh, I'm sure you find the same thing. I mean, you guys are all about how do you build that data platform that actually is going to be a single source of truth and useful and have the right information to run the systems you want to run?
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges is data is growing at a much faster pace with AI now because we collect way more data. And then trying to now make sense of it, what is going to happen over time is the context layer is going to become far more important, and how you actually put that data into a semantic layer so that it can be used by AI. So this is the next problem. Essentially, you will end up seeing a lot of work happening in the industry, which is where we are spending a lot of time now. And you will notice that yes, you need all of this data, and then you have to make it better so that AI can actually use it to make better decisions.
But it's actually funny because a few years ago, we were hoping to have more and more data to have enough, and now we're getting in the other kind of...
I mean, AI is creating that next level problem for us.
Right.
It's like too much data now.
Right.
Let's figure out how to actually make it useful.
Right. And is it the right data is the other question, I think.
And who owns the data?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting too. How are you dealing with Arcadis? How does that work in terms of your clients have certain data, you may want to use that internally for something. How do you... Does that become a point of negotiation with clients about who owns the data that they're using?
I would answer a little bit different way. I think on the AAC industry overall, we still have a challenge that there's quite a lot this kind of old-fashioned time and material thinking and review of the CVs. So
right.
That's, in my view, it's more the fundamental challenge that can we actually even use the AI with some customers if it's a time and material based. Probably doesn't make sense to use AI because if we generate then less hours, that's of course not so good for the for the business model perspective. So I think in this AAC industry there are these kind of fundamental things what we need to solve first, and then of course we can start maybe moving towards exactly the data ownership topics, because if we don't tackle the bigger beast first, I think we will never land to this.
Yeah, and how is that conversation going? Is the industry becoming more receptive to the idea of value-based pricing, or you deliver for a set price, and then it's up to the contractor to decide how they're going to deliver that, for that set price? I know some of the consulting firms are actually starting to talk about that model, where they'll say, well, we'll make the decision about how we deliver this, whether it's humans or AI agents that do this, but we'll take that risk on for a set price for this particular job, as opposed to they used to charge based on man hours. Yeah.
It's moving, and it's more, let's say, the public world is a little bit more challenging one, because it's always driven by local rules and the legislations. But it's clearly moving.
Right. Interesting. And I know, Ali, you also have said that your company won't have an AI strategy. It has a business strategy, and then that's assisted by AI. But it's not an AI strategy that's separate somehow from the business strategy.
Yeah, it's more believing on this kind of fundamental thing, is that AI is just one technology in the whole overall toolkit. And because AI is not our business, I mean, we are advising our customers in doing, for example, how to design this new rail network, or how to optimize it. But the question is that how we can use in that optimization work the AI. Can we create some kind of service offering to our customers using the AI technology? But it's not that we are selling AI to the customer. So that's not our offering.
Right.
So we need to be able to embed that deeply inside our strategy and the services what we provide.
Right. Are there things that AI is enabling you to do, business opportunities you can go after now that you feel like you couldn't have done before?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ritesh, go ahead.
Absolutely, correct. Yeah. Earlier, you needed to always have predefined workflows. You needed to know the answer before you could answer it. So you had these fixed integration, fixed predefined workflows, and you just couldn't introduce tools which are coming every day into these old workflows. So you had to go rework all of that. Now, all that can be redone by having these dynamic workflows, which otherwise weren't possible earlier. And there are better ways of doing this, it's just we'd never tried them.
Right.
Now with AI can try it and tell you in 10 different ways, and then you can figure out using your SMEs, subject matter experts, that, hey, this is a better way of doing it. And that can now become a skill which then the whole enterprise can use. So definitely all of this is going to become the way we work. And this is what is possible with AI. Earlier, this was not thinkable.
Interesting. That's interesting. Yanisa, I wanted to talk about at Lantis, you're working on these huge infrastructure projects. Very important that the information that goes out to contractors is accurate, truthful, reflects the actual process on the ground. One of the problems with AI has been the issue of it's not always accurate. It's not deterministic, so you get different outputs, different times you prompt it. How have you tried to merge a technology that sort of functions like that into a business that really is about ultimately ground truth and accuracy, and and your government related, so you have to answer to public authorities about how you're spending money. How have you thought about using the technology responsibly within your business?
Well, actually, humans also make mistakes, by the way. It's something that we are very harsh for AI. If it makes mistakes, it's
yeah.
But we all make mistakes in somehow, and what we try to do is every time we put somewhere a human in the loop to have some kind of a soft landing that we always check before we react in some kind of way. But indeed, it needs to be very accurate, and it works in both ways. The contractors need to be very accurate too. But even without AI, sometimes mistakes happen, and I think we should especially not forget that too.
Yeah. Then it becomes a question of, what is the human standard you're judging against? And I think actually there's often this issue where I think you're right. We hold automated systems to a higher standard than we hold people to sometimes. But I think the issue is that sometimes the mistakes that AI systems will make seem very bizarre. They're not the same mistakes a human would make, and that's what's really problematic. I think a lot of people find it very disturbing that the kind of mistake is a mistake that a human would never make, even if the mistakes are made far less frequently. I don't know. Ritesh, how have you viewed this within what you're trying to do at Autodesk about, what's your tolerance for mistakes? What's the human benchmark you judge against?
Yeah, so, we are thinking through this from an evaluation framework. We have invested a lot of time in creating an evaluation framework and a lot of test cases, correct? At the end of the day, you will have to figure out what right is, because there is a lot of questions you're going to ask which you don't even know the right to. So the conversation does become, how do you train this whole system with all of this evaluation framework and continuously monitor it so that you can detect these problems and have guardrails in place for not allowing these mistakes. So that's what we are building the whole system around. The assistant is built with that in mind, if you think about that. And what we are also noticing is a lot of your effort is moving from coding to actually testing. That's where the effort is now moving to, and that's where all of your knowledge and experience is now going into. So we are spending countless hours on actually creating this evaluation framework. The whole marketplace and the certified MCPs, that is the thought process, because one bad actor can derail the whole decision making.
Yeah, so the burden shifts from the writing of code to the verification of code, from the development of a system to the testing of the system. It's kind of interesting. And there's still a need for humans in that testing and evaluation stage, at least at the moment, I guess. We talked in some of the earlier panels about how you make this decision about where to start with AI, which business use cases to go after. How have you addressed this at Arcadis? How did you make decisions about, okay, this is where we really want to start moving to deploy AI?
Really difficult question, and so far we have not fully found a silver bullet for that one, to be honest with you. I think it should be more look at this kind of like, let's call it the risk investment, that you put effort on maybe 10 best possible candidates. And you have already from start, 5 of those will for sure fail. Maybe 3 of those will be providing some return on your investment. Hopefully 2 out of 10 will be something that will fly, because when you start, you don't know about, okay, is the data, you might have look at the data, is it good enough? You might have a feeling it's good enough, but you find out actually it's not. So there are quite a lot, all kind of challenges on the journey. So I would say focus on set of initiatives, don't make it too wide, and also be brave enough to kill them quickly when you realize this is actually not going to fly, so that you don't end up being in this kind of endless pilot situation.
Right.
Maybe after 1 year, the technology has evolved and you might be able to start it again. That would be my advice.
Yanisa, I want to get you in here. What would you say on that question? Where to start? How to think about where to start?
We have the same issue like Arcadis. It's quite difficult to find what should we invest in, yes or no. But I think there's a very important part that you said is be realistic up front that not everything will succeed. And the ones that will succeed, they will have the business case and the benefit to cover the rest. And we try to find use cases by those trainings and getting people involved in using AI, because in the digital and data department, we don't have the knowledge of what processes or what information can be interesting to use AI for. So we need the people, those ambassadors in the organization, to come with ideas.
You need the business units to come along.
Yes.
Exactly, because I think you need to combine the context knowledge about, okay, this is the business process, and then exactly the hardcore technology knowledge, and put them together.
Fantastic. We're going to have to end it there. We're out of time, but thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much, my wonderful panelists. It's been a really great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.